So, just for the purposes of, with all these different names, who are you?
Okay, well, I'm Ade Morris,
Okay.
and yeah, I'm 47, and I've been a lifetime contactee and experiencer. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and it's just kind of like as the years go by, you decide that you want to come out and just fully say what your experiences have been.
Well,
I
we've just done a conference here, just to make the levels. We've just done a conference a couple of days ago. Tina Bird, have you heard of her?
no,
Yeah,
no.
she's a lady type person. And I've just discovered one of my lights don't work. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And she's had a very serious experience about the MyLabs and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So explain to people, okay, you're an abductee or a contactee.
A contactee.
Right.
Um, yeah. Basically, since I was a little boy, basically, it goes sort of like before my experiences. It was my gran really that strange things were happening. She was renowned in the area of being able to remove facial scars and warts and things like that with the brush of her hand. And she'd say, "Well, do you believe I can take this?" And the people would say, "Yes." And she'd sort of like brush her hand across her face, put it in her pocket, and say, "In the morning, that'll be gone." And then in the morning, it was gone. Now, no, obviously, there's the whole placebo effect. But if it's not that, then there's something very interesting going on there in my lineage. Um, but going back to me, my first sort of like memories that I've just unlocked as I've been getting older now, um, was being visited as a child around about sort of like 5, 6 years of age.
Would you
Um,
mind saying roughly what sort of age you are? Because a lot of these things seem to break down in the late 30s, or and then more and more memories seem to come back.
yeah,
So, and I could ask you roughly what part of the world you're from.
yeah. Well, I'm from England, from Shropshire, so the heart of the country. And yeah, it's a lovely existence here in the countryside. It really is.
But has that got any? Okay, explain when this whole thing started. You were doing that, so I'll let you get on with it then. And this is a UFO
Yeah,
Truth mug
uh,
from Gary Hesseltine, so supporting him. Okay.
yeah. Well, as say, when I was around about 5 or 6, these memories have unlocked again of where I used to really curl up into the fetal position, put the covers over my head, so there was just literally a breathing space, and I used to just lie there with my eyes sort of like screwed up tight, saying, "Please don't find me, please don't find me." And I'd got this recollection of being pulled either out of bed or my astral body pulled out of my physical body
Now
by
that's very
my
important.
feet.
There's two totally separate things there. What
Yeah,
was it, or was it
yeah.
both?
Well, I had a lot of experience of sleep paralysis, where even when I was a child. So it could well be, the physical. It could be the astral. I'm guessing more at the astral, but say these things are only just unlocking for me. But I don't remember what these things look like. I remember that they used to shuffle into the room, and the room used to go freezing cold. Now, it's not the same as like when your parents used to walk into the room, and you'd, even with your eyes closed or you're half asleep, you get that lovely warm sensation. This was completely different. So I don't know what they were, but ever since I was a child.
Have you had any so-called therapies or hypnosis or anything like that?
No, no, I've had sort of like a Reiki session which that sort of like turned into like an almost like out of body experience.
Now, what is that again? Could you explain? But
Well, yeah, it's where they use the energies, around the body. I lay down there. I'd got a bit of trouble with my throat over the past few years, so I saw somebody who knew how to do all of that. And really, I didn't believe that anything could be done. But I lay down, and they went to work on me, and I was able to literally go into the energies they had were just phenomenal, and I was able to go out of body and literally see what was around me at that point.
I mean, are you part of any UFO group or society or anything like that?
No, 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 no. Well, I'm just a family guy. I've not got into anything specific. I'm a window cleaner by trade, and
That's an honest day's living.
but yeah, yeah, but that gets me outside in nature a lot every day, and also I get to put my ears in and I get to listen to different interviews and stuff like that, and learn a lot of information. So that's what I've been doing.
So let's go back to your, chronological experiences to see
Yep.
how that developed. And I mean, I'm keen to get the details, of each individual thing. Don't brush over things if you
Yeah.
can.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, as I was growing up, I'd always got a fascination of the stars. I don't know whether other kids were like that, but I really did. I remember having a vivid dream that still sits with me today, that I was making anti-gravity shorts as a child. That's just
Oh, the
one.
old anti gravity shorts.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
mean,
just
doesn't every kid do that? I mean,
yeah.
mummy, I've just made some anti gravity shorts.
I know it's a bit of a bizarre thing, and it wasn't working out properly, and it was flipping people round the opposite way. So it was, instead of them being upright, it would flip them round. And I remember that, and I remember often being in the sleep state, being uh, taking exams and being in room with other children, like completely white rooms, and we all had to design different craft and stuff like that.
Could
And
you
I
go
was
into those details? Just since you're there now.
Yeah, well, I just remember being like in a primary class. I say this is in the sleep state, and I just remember all these other children being really super excited. They were going to draw the best craft, and I decided I was going to design like a space station sort of thing. And I remember just sort of saying, no, no, mine's going to be the best kind of thing. But it's a bizarre thing for a 6-year old to be.
But
Um,
what did you design? I mean, any? Do you have any drawings that from that time? Or obviously not. I mean,
I don't, unfortunately, but I remember it clear as day. I don't remember if there were any entities at that time that were around, but there was like a teacher figure that was there, but I couldn't physically see them. And as I say, there were lots of children
what
the
about
same.
the other children? Did you Was there any fraternization with them? Did they all speak the same language or what?
Yeah, yeah, they all spoke the same language. They were all speaking English, so it was a completely white room. Even sort of like the tables that we were drawing on, they were white. It was, yeah, yeah. That's about as much as I can remember from that.
Were there and any accents? I mean, were they your local? And what I'm getting at is it something where the children had an accent from your part of the world?
Yeah, nothing that I can remember. But I mean, in a lot of experiences, as I've gone on, I've got recall of sort of like accents, and I've got recall even down to specifics of people having buns in their hair and all sorts of stuff. But that's all I can remember at the moment, as
When you
far as
say buns in their hair, is that from a like a hospital point of view where long haired ladies would have the
Yep,
bun up?
that's right.
So
Yeah, yeah, and into like a circular bun and things like that.
I'm looking for any symbols or insignia or anything like that.
All right. Okay. Well, as I say, from this experience, that's as much as I can tell you. But obviously, there's a lot more detail in things that go on later in life. Like the next sort of like main thing that happened to me was sort of like around about 18. I had a series of 3 blackouts, and so I went and I had one of those CT scans. Well, I really enjoyed it. A lot of people are freaked out by it, but you know, you lie down on the machine and the big machine rotates around you, and you have to stay perfectly still. Well, I came out after that scan, and I looked off to my right, and there was an open door, and a nurse sat at a computer screen. And I was drawn to her, so I walked over, and she clocked me, and she looked like a rabbit in headlights, which was really odd. And I walked to the room and I had a look at the screen and I said, is that my brain? Because they've got the brain on the screen. And she goes, well, yes, it is. She said, but we don't normally allow people to look. But since you're here, that was that. And she said, you've got an unusually large brain for your head, which was the most bizarre chat-up line I've ever had.
I
But
mean,
you know, I'll take
usually the brain fits inside the head.
it. Yeah. So I had a look, and on the screen, I could see towards the center was a grain of rice shadow
Right.
within the brain. And I said, "What's that?" And she went really weird again, which was really odd. And she goes, she said, well, that's probably what's causing your problems. She said, but it's too deep, so we can't operate. And that was that. But, you know, was that an implant? Was it, you know, but it was a
Now,
defined brain
Are you
device.
looking? I mean, at this time, have you had any indication of an alien implant, or is this is what they call a MyLab? It's all military, or you haven't seen anybody to indicate what you're dealing with by that time? I mean,
No,
there's quite a long
I,
gap there, 18 to
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I was born at RAF Cosford. There basically wasn't a regular hospital here, so I had to go to the military hospital.
Now you
Um,
have now. Why were you born at RAF Cosford? That's COSFORD.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was just the place that people tended to go in this area, and so yeah, basically that
So
was the
they
case.
they dealt with civilian people as a matter of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. And
I mean, was there not a sort of NHS hospital nearby? Or?
no, well, not that I know of, but that's basically where I was born. My brother was born there as well. The strange thing was that my dad was allowed to be present for my brother's birth, but he was refused entry for my birth, which is just really odd why they would do that.
What
I don't.
special circumstances? I mean, obviously you were a bit young at the time, you know. Sorry. So, I mean, what have you been told about why your father wasn't allowed in?
Well, the long and short of it was the guy that was doing it. I don't know his rank or anything like that. Apparently, the story he gave to my dad was that he didn't believe that the father should be present, and my dad said, "Well, I've already been present for his older brother,
Is it
you
what
know,
sort of
at the
difference
same
in
hotel.
what difference in is it about a couple of years or what? How,
3 years, 3 years. Yeah, I'm 47, so um, yeah, so it was just really odd. So I don't know whether anything went on there.
well, I find it very odd that people would be getting born in an RAF hospital.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
I mean, there must be normal. They're not. I find it very odd that, or well, anyway, continue.
yeah. So obviously, throughout my childhood and everything like that, it was a idyllic childhood growing up. my dad was a salesman for a company that made heat sinks and fuel tanks for the various different Lockheed and Boeing and all
A
the
heat
different.
sink, just so people understand, is a lump of metal which has got fins on it and radiates heat from electronic equipment.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so he.
So you're mentioning Lockheed, sort of a local English company. Some of you just walk around with your sales pack and just walking, hello, Mr. Lockheed. So there's no Marconi or anything like that sort of people. I mean,
um,
see, we're
well,
bringing in the United States here when you say
yeah,
Lockheed,
sure,
which is
sure.
a little bit far from Corsham.
Yeah, well, these are sort of like aviation companies, military companies, Formula One companies, things like that. He also did business with the Indian High Commission. So, as the usual suspects that kind of are popping up in my story as well. But as I say, quite beyond that, I've had no interaction with them.
So
My
you're born in, is it Cosford?
yeah. So
So
RAF,
we've got Corsham here, which is not too far away, so I don't want to confuse the two.
yeah. So it was RAF Cosford, and yeah, so basically, we used to get invited because of my dad's connections to go to the different air shows to show off the different latest military equipment and stuff like that. We
Yeah,
got
a big
tickets.
thrill that, yeah.
Yeah, we went to Farnborough Air Show in 1980, and I was 5 years old, and that was I was walking around with my mum, and my feet were growing tired and whatnot. And I remember we gone to the latest uh, fighter jet or whatever it was. It was probably the old hat, but it was the latest as far as
It
the
might
public.
be a Jaguar, no? Anyway,
I
British
can't.
jets, okay,
I
okay.
couldn't tell you. I was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
young, but it was American,
Ah,
and there were a couple of American pilots with the full gear on. The reflective glasses looked like they stepped off the set of Top Gun, and they were stood there, and there was a big group of children, and they were bouncing up and down, and me, all this sort of stuff. And the guide said, "I've only got one." And I was getting annoyed because I wanted to see the plane, and the kids were bouncing up and down on my feet. And then the next thing I realised was there's this hand on my shoulder, and I looked down, and there was this fluffy bug. It got these sticky feet, and it was sort of like a ball, and made of fabric, and it's waving the American flag. And I followed the arm up, and there was this smiling face of this pilot. Out of all the children, he'd picked me. And I don't remember much else at something like 5 years of age, but I remember that really clear as day. And it just feels like I'm missing something. And I go back to it, and I just, well, did he have bigger eyes?
why you? The sort of.
Yeah, why me?
So,
Why me?
I mean, did they show you the controls of the airplane or around it or anything like that?
No, it was all cordoned off, so you couldn't get within sort of like 20 foot of it, something like that. So, yeah,
But
yeah.
how
So
did he touch you? I mean, what happened that you got?
it was a long kept hand on my shoulder, and I just sort of looked and followed the arm up, and so it was just odd. And yeah, as I say, that's one memory I remember quite clearly.
So I suppose that made you special at school, or did any were you,
Well,
were
well,
any of
I
your
said.
people from school there? Or
No. This was like because of my dad's connections, he
yeah,
was able to get us like the free tickets. Like he got us free tickets to the Formula races, and I was walking down the pit lane, looking at all the Formula One race cars and stuff. And I didn't realise how honoured I was. It was just the
it's
cars
pretty
were amazing.
exciting, really exciting.
Yeah, amazing stuff. So it was great to see all the jets and the planes and everything like that. I really enjoyed that. But I never was able to get, really, really close.
But why the gap? You're talking 12-year gap or 13-year
Yeah,
gap or whatever.
yeah.
Nothing happened in that entire time.
Not that I can remember. I had a series of obviously the I've just forgotten it now. Sleep paralysis.
Right.
I had that quite a lot,
Okay.
and
Can
obviously
you go down? Can you drill down into any of those memories? I know it's pretty shocking to have it. You know, you traumatizing it is. Any memories you can grab from that?
yeah. Well, I remember sort of uh, well through the period of going having sleep
Oh,
paralysis. It was the breath.
we've had a little glitch.
I mean,
I think we haven't been recording on the. Well, it doesn't matter. It's only me. We're recording in two things. This is
right.
interesting.
Okay.
That's dropped out of record once before.
Oh,
Anyway, we've got a gap on one of the recordings of about 5 minutes. I've got to keep
oh,
an eye on that.
all right.
So I'll need to look at that. That didn't show. Okay, so we'll keep that over there. Okay, continue. For some
So,
reason, the main recorder with well, as I say, it's only got me. Because we got you, it's okay.
all right. Okay. So the sleep paralysis, I would be awake in the middle of the night, and the breathing was like next to zero. You know, I was really struggling to breathe. My body was just solid, and you know, I could sense that something was in the room, but I couldn't give you any more information beyond that. But that happened lots of times.
So that's possibly something which is going to maybe come back. We'll just have to see whether this is going to be happy or not. Okay, but just keep going. Yeah,
All right.
it's this. It's anyway. So you have this block. You've had lots of experiences you can't remember, except
Yeah.
for this sleep paralysis.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And then obviously as I got older and older still, you know, then things started to sort of happen a bit more often. You know, when I was sort of like again around sort of 19, sort of like that sort of area, I saw a triangular craft in the sky.
Right.
That was over
Where were
Shropshire.
you and what happened?
I was walking back from town, and it was a clear night. It was evening sky. It was round about sort of like 10:30, something like that. And I saw this triangular craft. Now, the lights that were flashing on it were very erratic. It was kind of, you know, when you see a plane, it's just blink, 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 a
Yeah.
regular pattern thing. This was kind of like like it was changing all the while, and I'd
What sort
see.
of circumstances was this? Daylight, middle of the night, or
No, no,
what?
no. This was this was nighttime, a clear night sky, and I was looking up at the stars, and that's why I saw it. Because there wasn't any sounds that I could hear as such. But as I say, I saw these different lights, and it was sort of whites and greens and reds, and it was yeah, it's a very erratic, but it was moving really slow as well, which was just bizarre. And
So
I
what?
think,
This had no apparent noise. What sort of height, size? I mean, if you put your finger out or your thumb directly out,
yeah. So if you,
would your thumb cover the thing? Was it
yeah. If you put your thumb, extend your arm out, put your thumb out, then it would just cover it. Yeah,
so fairly big,
yeah,
relatively? You know.
yeah. But what I did was I went back and I spoke to my parents, and they weren't quite sure what to make of it. And they said, "Well, why don't you call the base, the military base?" And so I called them up, and you know,
What sort of proximity are you to the base? You know, a mile,
oh,
10 miles,
oh, it's about yeah, 15 miles, something like that. Some 15, yeah, maximum. Maybe a little less.
15 by car, or 15 as a crow flies.
Yeah, as I'd say, as the crow flies.
Okay.
Yeah, but basically, I called up the base, and I told him what I'd seen, and I said, "Oh, do you mind? Who am I speaking to?" And they put the phone down on me. I couldn't believe it. They literally just slammed the phone down, and so I then thought I'd call up Birmingham Airport, and I'd log it with them. And so I told them, logged it, and I was waiting 2 weeks, and I got a reply back. This woman called me on the phone, and she said, "We take all of these very seriously. We can't account for that craft, so it is a UFO." And I just sort of came off the phone, and I was just like, "Oh, oh, okay, I've seen a UFO."
How did the person speak? Did she have a very qualified, intelligent form of speaking, or did she sound like your average local nurse or so and so?
Um, she uh, she sounded like she knew what she was talking about, but she didn't sound like somebody who was, top brass. I've had experiences where um, you can just be around people and instantly know without them even saying anything that they are, really in with the military or
It's
as.
demeanor, but from the phone, it was it a phone conversation.
Mm, yeah, phone conversation, and it didn't last that long. She didn't ask any more sort of like any more questions or anything like that. Um, but it was nice to get a bit of feedback and a bit of confirmation, because I thought after I'd had the phone slammed down on me, I thought, well, that was going to be the end of it.
Did you get through when you phoned the base? Was it something like a less educated? I'm
Yeah,
not trying to. I'm trying to get a different level of just like an ordinary security guard or somebody who was educated or had
yeah.
authority. It was just a
Yeah. It wasn't somebody who was, I just basically called up, got through, spoke to somebody, and said, "Look, I've had this experience, blah 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 blah," and it was a guy down the other end, and yeah, so as soon as I asked for his name, it literally
I mean,
slammed the phone
when
down.
you say it was a triangular craft, in what
Yeah.
angle? I mean, did it was it a perfect triangle, or was it like a for instance, a stealth fighter? If you could, what did it have wings, or it was?
No, well,
Did it have
because
pointed edges? Would
yeah,
you see
basically.
anything thickness about it or anything like that?
Yeah. Well, it was an equal-sided triangle craft.
Equilateral triangle, yeah.
Yeah, and as I say, the lights on it
So I mean, were
were
you seeing it
quite
straight
flaming.
above,
I
or were
was
you
looking up,
getting?
and it was kind of like if I was looking up. Um, uh, let's say, so if I'm looking at the clock, maybe it was about the 1 o'clock position going across the sky. So yeah, yeah, it was.
Were there any static lights on it which gave you an indication it was triangular?
Well, I could see the shape because it was still, even though it was like a night sky, it was still I could still see the dark triangle shape. Um,
I
but
mean, was it a
yeah, so there was
cloudy
nothing.
sky? Were any background light that would give you an easier way of seeing it, or
Well,
scattered light from the ground up to clouds and stuff like that?
yeah, well, I was sort of just walking along the road, and there were obviously street lights that were about, and I looked up and happened to see this thing. But beyond any other light source reflecting off it or showing anything, I can't. Beyond that, that's as much as I can tell you.
Okay, I don't want to mention other types of triangular craft. It's what you want to, if what you've seen and what's so that.
Sure.
So, moving on from there, what was the next sort of thing you experienced?
Um, well, the next thing was I got married the first time, and went through a um, a run through at the church. Basically, when I was a child, I went to this Chetwynd church on the outskirts of town. Very picturesque. It's got a spire and everything like that. It's very, very nice. And so I was in the choir as a boy, so there was no other place I really wanted to get married but this church. And despite all that, there was a lot of sort of like stories of weird things going on. You know, the ghosts and stuff like that are in the surrounding area. Now, when I was a boy and we used to go to church, when you're in the
Do you want to
church
name the
itself,
church?
what was that? Sorry.
Do you want to name the church?
Yeah, Chetwynd Church.
Chetwynd.
C
Is
C
any
H
sort of
E.
history of civil war or battles in that area? Or
I don't know, but it was a very strange atmosphere outside the church. Inside was absolutely fine. Well, if I had to go and get something from the car during the day, I'd literally run to the car, get it, and I wouldn't even look back. I'd just run back into the church. Once I was in the church, I felt absolutely
what
fine.
exactly do you mean by strange atmosphere? What describe
Yeah,
what made you feel
this
it was strange rather than not strange?
No, sure. Well, there was a lot of stories, sort of like ghost stories, apparitions, and stuff like that being around. Though I never saw anything, it always felt like you were being watched. And so whenever I was there, I felt really quite cold. I used to get goosebumps on the arm and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, I'm just being silly and just imagining stuff because it's surrounded by obviously gravestones and all this sort of stuff. You've got a main road that runs across the front of the church, and then a little road, a country road that runs parallel to the church. Well, my further story goes on to being when I was doing the run through for getting married, and it was October time. It was dusky early, so it was about sort of like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, something like that, going dusky. We'd done the run through, and there was about 12 or so people ahead of me, and I was at the back of the queue with my mate Ferg, and somebody at the front of the queue was struggling to open the gate. Well, we were looking directly out onto this country lane running parallel to the church, and directly in front of us was a shadow being. It was, all I can say is like a shadow in the dark. It looked like the stereotypical Grim Reaper with a cowl over their head. I couldn't see a face, but you could make the outline of the body. It didn't
What
have a
sort of time of
sign.
the day was this?
This was about sort of like 4:30, something like that.
And what
So it
time
was
of the
just
year? I mean, what sort of lighting
so
conditions were there?
so October-ish. So it
Yeah.
was going dusky and dark really early, and so we're looking at this thing while people are struggling to open the gate,
You
and
said
then
you said a towel. How did you notice
no, a cowl,
a cowl?
a hood, a
Okay.
hood, a hood. So it's like literally sort of like a hooded, cloaked figure, and it's directly outside on the country lane running parallel to the church. And as we watched, this car slowly peeped its lights over the hill of the country lane and started coming down the country lane. And this thing turned like this, looked, and then in the opposite direction just flew off in the opposite way. And I was stunned. And I turned to my friend Ferg, who was stood right next to me. He was absolutely white as a sheet, and his just mouth was just like
Yeah.
this. And I said, "Tell me you saw that." And he just nodded his head, and we haven't talked about it since.
What was the car like? Wasn't the sort of a 1950s Cadillac from with men in black in it or something?
No, nothing like that. Nothing like that. Just a normal car, but it was it was there all right, and it moved as soon as those lights were shining on it. It shifted. It really
So
shifted.
it had its main beam on,
Yeah, as it was coming down the country lane. Yeah. Mm.
but
So
it was a standard English normal everyday car.
yeah, yeah.
And who was in it? Was there any? I mean, why do you think? What was it? Did it have any features or people in it? You know, with hats on or something like that.
I didn't even look to see what the car was. I was that stunned.
How long did this so-called shadow individual? How long did you notice him?
Stood there for maybe 5 to 8 seconds, maybe 10 seconds, and we stood there. And I say, there's the clank, clank, clank. They're struggling to get through this gate, and we just stood there, and I couldn't speak. All I could do was just watch it as it watched us.
And how easy was it to get the gate open after that had disappeared?
I can't believe you said that. Straight away.
Yeah.
Straight away. Yeah. That was. I can't believe you brought that up. Yeah, straight away.
So what else happened? I mean, were the shadow people interested in your wedding? I mean, what was the deal?
Well, I mean, it turned into a divorce years later, so it was quite prophetic, seeing the Grim Reaper on your wedding run through. I don't know.
I mean, do you want to talk about your wedding and what led to a divorce or anything like that? I mean, is there any connections with your experience and the reason why you divorced?
No, not that I really know of. Just too young, really, and
I mean, what age you again were you at the time?
I was. Oh, now you're asking.
Jesus,
it's like
you've just got married.
Like asking
to some poor unfortunate girl. You can go and see the shadow guy, and you can't even remember what age you were. Jesus. I think she's lucky.
Yeah. I am. That's like asking a bloke in front of his wife, what's your wedding anniversary date?
No. That's the next thing is you're going to use the word relationship. That scares the living daylights. I'd have.
So we were married for just under 5 years, and it was more of a friendship than it was, anything else.
But you didn't have any kids or anything? Have you had any kids?
No.
Without being too personal about things.
I've got a couple of kids now. I'm remarried, and I've had a lot of curious encounters now with my family and my wife since, which I'll go on to in a bit. That leads up to really quite nicely to the reptilian encounter.
The old reptilian thing. Well, what led to your divorce? You had the divorce, and did things change? Were there any changes in frequency of events, or did nothing much happen?
Well, that was the problem. I think nothing much was sort of like really happening, and it just it just fizzled out. It was.
But without wishing to disrespect your previous wife, I mean, do you think she was your handler, so to speak? Was she there to sort of be your carer? Is there anything like that happening? And if she was your handler, would you know about it?
Well, that's a good question. No, I don't think so. I like to think that I was a bit more savvy to if something like that was going on. So I don't think.
Well, you got the old sort of practicing for the weddings. Black shadow entity turns up. I mean, doesn't that happen to everybody who's having a wedding? That was the old sort of. Well, yeah. I mean, it happened at the coronation. Some Grim Reaper type thing turned up and walked across.
Oh yeah.
Allegedly, there's no way the press would ever over egg a pudding just to sort of for a bit of sensationalism. Every word you read in the newspaper is verbatim truth.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out: is there anything within the marriage which was any other experiences before we finished that?
No, there wasn't anything else. That was the real sort of like standout sort of moment. So no, there wasn't anything else.
So the wedding itself went okay.
Went okay. Yeah, there wasn't.
You got your vows out without stumbling, unlike some people when they get married.
Yeah. I managed to get through it all right. Yeah, a few tears, but I managed to get through it all right. Yeah. So obviously nothing
So
major
5 years
happened
later,
then.
you get divorced, and I mean, how did that all work out?
Well,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, from a well, it's over to you. What you want to say?
No, sure. No, it's fine. I'm an open book. It's fine. We had a couple of dogs, and she sort of like wouldn't let me see the dogs, and kept hold of them. And then finally, she went and moved over to Ireland, and she was like, "Well, do you want the dogs back?" And I was like, "Absolutely, I do." So I had the dogs back, and of course, we didn't have any children, so everything was amicable and fine.
Frequently, dogs are a substitute for that.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, whether did the dogs have any pick up on any strange events?
Um, Yeah, well, yes, but that comes with the next encounter, But during the first marriage, there wasn't
Okay,
anything. Yeah, so really, this reptilian encounter was the next one, and obviously I'd been married again,
so you
and
got married. You sort of was
I
there a long
basically
gap
had,
or
yeah, there was a reasonable amount of time,
like 15 minutes? Okay, where's the next
yeah,
wife?
yeah, yeah. So like, yeah. So we're talking.
I'm being empathic
Yeah,
here. I'm really being sort of sympathetic
yeah.
to your situation. And
No, no,
this is
sure.
about as
So
far as you'll get with.
yeah, yeah. So it was about sort of a 4 to 5 year
Oh,
period.
oh, right. So I mean, it was almost as long as the
Yeah,
marriage.
5 years. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously with the new wife, got a new home. But this was within Newport, Shropshire,
Okay.
and there was an odd thing.
How far is that way from?
From the church.
Yeah, is there?
Yeah, Cheltenham Church. It is a 5 minute drive.
Oh, so it's still within the same.
Yeah, yeah. So this new house, it always, even though I like the house, it always felt like some kind of portal or something. It
Oh,
just
the old
felt
sort of portal thing. Oh well,
you're living on a
when you
portal.
call it a new house, was it
Yeah,
actually a new to you house, or had it a history, or what?
it was a different house. It was made in when I was born, actually. So it was 1975 that it was made. So it was reasonably new-ish compared to some properties. But it always felt a bit like I was like Buffy the Vampire Slayer on a portal.
Why do you
Only
feel
better
about that? I mean, was there any other buildings, standing stones, any structures around there which in the
No, no, but it was just the
I'm
end of a little cul-de-sac that was right next to fields that were built over some very, very close to mines, and so that's the geologically
what sort of mines?
um,
What's the history of mining in the area?
right. Good question. I'm not entirely sure. Coal and that kind of thing. I mean, we've got the Granville that's not too far away, and that was a big coal mine. More of the same, really. So basically, we'd gone out, my wife and I, and we'd had a evening with family. Nothing sinister whatsoever. Went to bed, and I was lying there, and somewhere between the state between awake and asleep, and I kept seeing, with my eyes closed, this was in my mind, I kept seeing this, like all I could perceive was a giant lizard, like a T-Rex kind of thing, a big lizard.
Have you
And
any drawings of that, or could you make any drawings?
I could, yeah, yeah, I could make some drawings. One thing for sure, it kept on coming right up, showing its eye, and it was red and it was slitted, and it was kept on coming up and trying to intimidate me. And I sort of shook my head and I tried to think of something else, and it kept on coming
So this
back.
was in your mind's eye.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
As I'm lying there,
So your wife was there as well. She didn't see it. No.
no, no.
Was
Um,
she in a state of?
she was. she'd
Was she
she'd gone
paralyzed or anything? No.
she'd gone to sleep, and I was lying there, and so I thought, because this thing kept on coming back, even though I was trying to think of other things, it kept on coming back, and it was kind of like, looking at me and staring and grizzling. And so I thought, I'll just try and just ask it what it wants telepathically. And to speak telepathically, it's to speak as if you're, say, reading a book, or you're talking without
Yeah.
talking, but in your head. And so I asked, what do you want? And I didn't expect a reply or anything at all. And this thing came back, and it was all menacing. It said, your wife. And what?
The old sort of, did you
Yeah,
charge?
yeah.
Did you charge for her? I mean, did you give him a good rate?
I mean,
Did he want to have the wife without going to into too much graphic, or
right.
did he
Well,
want to maybe sort of eat her alive or something mild like that?
to say I was terrified is an understatement. I mean, uh, how do you run away from something like that? It's it's coming in there, and so I was really worried, and I was thinking, well, have you gone mad? Then all of a sudden, this command comes to me, and I don't to this day know where it's come from. But this command came to me, and it said, you've got to stand defiantly and say, I am one of the children of the light. You are not welcome here. Leave now. To which this thing started laughing, and I could tell that there were two of them. I could only see one in my mind's eye, but I could tell there were two laughing. And anyway, they kept on trying to intimidate me and all this sort of stuff. It lasted for about 15 minutes, and then it went. And I got
So
this
you
sense.
have the laughing reptilians.
Yeah, yep.
Don't
And
hear
then,
that too often.
no,
Obviously, taking your threat of the
yeah,
light. Now,
yeah.
when did you simply recount that phrase, or did you actually believe it when you said it?
No, I believed it. In my heart of hearts, I sort of like stood there, and I like literally in my head shouted it. And anyway, after I'd got the sensation it had gone, and I got this. It's okay for you to go to sleep now. Oh,
Now,
great,
where did you hear?
And
Where did you feel that it's okay now?
yeah, well,
I
again,
mean,
it's
we know that a duvet cover will protect you from nuclear war and imminent
yeah,
alien abduction.
yeah, yeah. Well, I say I got this message of it's okay to go to sleep, just the same as I got the message of of what to
Was there
say.
any tone of voice?
No,
Any
no,
just
no. Um, it was more um, it was more a feeling, um, and the feeling, it felt good. It didn't feel a threat. It felt warm, and I trusted it. And so, but I lay there and I thought to myself, I am not going to tell my wife this at all, right? She's going to
I
think
think I
I'm
think
crackers.
generally speaking, that was probably a good decision.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a
but
bit
then,
like Honey, We Shrunk the Kids. Honey, there are two big reptilians in the room wanted to eat you alive.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Generally not a good
yeah,
thing.
it doesn't really
I
sit
think
very
you go
well.
quiet on that one.
Yeah, well, it felt that the equivalent, sort of like height equivalence, just say how big these things were. It was like Gandalf versus the Balrog. This thing was huge, very intimidating. So I managed to get to sleep, and in the morning, before I said anything, my wife rolled over. She woke me up, and she said, I had a terrible night's sleep last night. She said, I had this snake's tongue flicking out at me, and these snake's eyes staring at me. And I was stunned. So I told her then everything that had happened to me. And I didn't have a computer I didn't have anything like that at the time, so all I had to go on was what the movies did, and so I wandered around the house because I
So
thought, well,
let's go back over about the wife's experience.
yeah, yeah,
I
sure.
mean, how did she experience her experience?
Yeah,
I mean, how did that?
in, in through the sleep state. So what she told me was that obviously she was struggling to get to sleep or was woken mid-sleep, and this all she saw was these snake's eyes, slitted eyes, and this snake's tongue flicking out at her, and that's all she saw. But obviously the two matched together. And from there, I only had what the movies said, so I walked around burning sage and muttering the Lord's Prayer.
But you knew about using those techniques to sort of ward off things.
Yeah, well, obviously I'd seen stuff in the movies, and so I thought that's my best bet. I spoke to my parents, and they didn't know what to do or anything like that. I suspect they probably thought I was going a bit crackers.
And mummy and daddy, we just had a big reptilian in a room wanting to eat the wife, and the wife. Did you sort of say that in that way?
Yeah, well, I told them everything. You see, obviously we had the two dogs at the time as well, and the one was a bit of an alpha female, Rona. We couldn't find her anywhere after we'd come down stairs. We searched, we just couldn't find her. Eventually, we found her, and she was upstairs, cowering under the spare bed. Right, she was panting heavily, and she wouldn't come out for 15 minutes. You had to take treats. I crawled under the bed, and I was
Now,
calm.
this was when the wife or you had that experience. When did that happen?
Yeah, well, that's basically after the reptilian had tried to intimidate us, didn't get obviously what it wanted, and so turned its attention on our dog.
And were
And
these?
that
No,
was
I just need to. Was this? Was this reptilian experience physical for you, or was it in
um,
your mind?
no, 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 no. So although I was conscious, it was in the state between awake and asleep.
Right.
And so obviously it wasn't until the morning we looked for the dog, and we found her cowering under the bed.
So
And
the
obviously
dog had.
through the
So the
night,
dog had picked up on this.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it took a long while to calm her down, and after that, I thought, right, okay, I've got to get a computer, and I've got to try and figure out who these things are, and try and protect the family, so
So when you've got a computer, I mean, what were you looking for? What was your similarity? What was
uh,
close to what you saw?
well, it projected to me like it was a big lizard T-Rex kind of thing, and so whether it was trying to be even more intimidating by projecting that thought into my mind, or whether it was my mind only being able to compute and think, right, okay, what's the only big lizard that I know of? A T-Rex. And
Yeah.
so, it was very difficult to start off with because, I had no point of reference. I had nobody that
I mean,
unnamed.
there is a book by Elena Danan who's got lots of different drawings, about 200 odd drawings of various types of beings in great
Yeah.
detail. I don't want to show you that because I don't want to. I want you to try to continue with your.
No, sure. So without it being tainted, yeah, I
Yeah, I don't
understand.
want you to sort of
Um,
say it was like this or not or whatever. I would like you to. I mean, it's like
yeah, sure.
an identity parade. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, yeah. Well, obviously, um, over the course of the experience, it was like um, a motley green. It's, I say, the slitted eyes. I could see sharp teeth as well, but again, whether that is a projection into my mind, or quite what, or whether that is a variety of reptilians. I've since listened to William Tompkins,
Yeah,
and he was
the
saying,
late William Tompkins.
yeah, late great William Tompkins,
Yeah.
and
Unfortunately,
he
he was
was.
a little bit cocky about boasting on stage about things, and they don't like
Oh,
that.
right. Well, I don't know that, but I do know that he said there were sort of like, between about sort of like 30 and 40 different types of reptilians that the governments were in contact with. And some of these don't get along and all this sort of stuff. Um, so, you have different varieties like you do different varieties of
Yeah,
humans.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was that experience, and within the same house had another experience. We'd got our first son, and he was 2 years of age, and you know that um, as a dad, the woman normally does most of the work. Unfortunately, I try to sort of like help out wherever I can. And in the middle of the night, Harry was crying, so I got up and I went. I thought I'll sort his bottle for him. Let his mum sleep.
What age was the kid then?
Yeah, Harry was 2.
All right.
Harry was 2. And so I got up, I started to walk downstairs, and as I say, we're in the same house. And I had a vision in my head. This was about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I had this vision of a grey. It just stood there waving at me. And even the thought of it made me jump. And I carried on walking down the stairs. I was thinking, well, I've got to get this bottle. And I just said in my mind, I said, oh, I thought you guys were supposed to be smart. I said, if you try and contact me, make sure you do it in broad daylight or at least give me some warning. And then I had a voice come back saying, can we observe you? And I thought, well, that's really odd, because if you were observing anyway, I would be none the wiser. So why ask me? Why ask me? It's like
It's
then
called giving your permissions away. I mean, there are many different types of greys. A, was it grey? And B, how tall was it? I mean, give some ideas.
Okay, right. It was about 4 foot tall. It was not like any others that I've seen. I've seen experienced greys in other formats. This
You haven't
grey,
mentioned that, you see.
right.
You
This
haven't
is
mentioned the greys at all until now.
yeah.
Okay.
This is for later. This is for later on. But this grey was very slim. It had a pinkish greyish body, very slim arms, and it had a face like a child. It didn't have the stereotypical black eyes.
Yeah.
Like quite a long neck, smallish head, and it was waving at me. Then I heard this
I mean,
voice.
did the eyes go up or sideways or?
No. Well, yeah, it wasn't like the black-eyed.
So it didn't have its sunglasses on.
No. So it looked kind of like the face of a child. And as I say, it was waving, and even the thought made me jump. Then I heard this voice: "Can we observe you?" And I thought, that's bizarre, but I was busy trying to get a bottle for my son, and I was just very flippantly just said, yeah, as long as there's not many of you. And that's what I thought in my head. Just, it was just ridiculous. So I got this bottle, sorted out, went and settled my son, and then I went.
Well, it's the sort of thing every father sees when they're getting something for the child. Or the odd grey, a few greys having a look in.
Well, honestly, it's taken until sort of like now, and I'm 47, to kind of connect all the dots and say, you know what, this isn't what everybody experiences.
No,
But
no.
that said,
It does. Yeah,
I think
Flip me.
I think that if more people talked about these sorts of things, then there would be a lot more common experiences. Maybe not to this degree, but a lot more common
I mean, is
experiences.
that maybe your intention about doing this, to say this publicly?
Yeah, well, basically, what I want to do is show people and teach people exactly how I did it, right? How I awakened all these abilities, and maybe they were already existing there, but and so then they can have these experiences too, because many people want to have these experiences, and I feel very strongly that as soon as we do learn exactly what our true powers are, then we can put a stop to the cabal that is trying to, depopulate the planet as we
Well, it's
speak.
doing a pretty good job at the moment.
Yeah,
I see
yeah,
Holland has just fallen to the World Economic Forum. They've agreed to surrendering their country to the World Economic Forum. No, sorry, the WHO. But anyway, that's politics.
yeah, yeah. So I'd got this bottle, went up, and I settled my son. And then I thought to myself, oh, I'm up, I may as well go to the toilet. Right, so went to the toilet. When I came out the bathroom door, there was stood my wife, and I jumped out of my skin. Can't believe it. We
Why,
both laughed.
why wouldn't your wife maybe want to get up to the toilet herself?
Well, yeah, yeah, sure. I thought she
You
was
see,
back.
the greys were okay. Oh, there's a few greys there. I'll just go and get this bottle of milk for the kid. But when the wife wants to do something, it's all a big God help her, you know.
well, well, I jumped out of my skin for the Greys, and then I jumped out of my skin again for my wife, who was the other side of the door. We both had a laugh about it, and she went
So
to the
she
loo.
was awake. She wasn't sort of sleepwalking.
No, no, she was awake. So we went back to bed.
She didn't
Now,
sort of ask you why that, why the hell did you jump out of your skin?
um, no, it's just like it was one of those things where I opened the door and she was stood right there, so it made me jump. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. Um, so anyway, we, we we were in bed, and things became as a married couple do, but without going into details.
Yeah,
We
we don't need
started.
to go into
Yeah,
details. In other words, you had
no,
her
no,
around. She was smoking cigarettes
yeah. So we started to get a
and
bit
empathic
amorous.
here.
Yeah. So we got amorous, and and one thing led to another. Well, as during the course of things, um, it just crossed my mind: can we observe you? And I thought to myself, I wonder if they've like pushed our buttons, so then we'll do this, so then they can watch. And um, so it felt really, yeah, it felt really
Sounds like that movie about the ants.
about the ants. What's
Yeah, the
that?
queen ant wants to see how humans mate.
Oh, right, okay.
It's that. Yeah,
I don't know that one,
it's
but
it's the Los Angeles one famous movie.
right.
Very famous movie.
So
Anyway,
that crossed my mind, and then something happened, which this entity entered into my body, like my consciousness. So it became a shared consciousness experience.
okay. Now
So,
that's quite serious. What do you mean by an entity?
yeah, well, I saw afterwards. Um, well, let me tell the story, and then I'll tell you
Just get on.
what
Yeah, good.
So, so I took like a seat back. It's very difficult to explain, but I took like a seat back and let this thing take the driving seat. But it didn't know what it was doing, and it felt. I felt like I was a fumbling teenager all over again.
Yeah, that sort of
Like,
came to mind.
yeah. And I lasted for about something like 10 seconds, 15 seconds or so. And then I pushed it right out of my mind. So with that done, it was out. But just to try and explain further how it felt like if you're on the underground, say, on the train system, and you're sat on the train and it's rammed, okay, and you're sat there and there's standing room only, and one of those strangers comes and sits on your lap. That's how odd it felt.
Right.
So after it was out, and of course, if I'd have known the parameters of what observe were, I wouldn't have agreed to it in the first place. So
this was like a grey then, or what? Maybe.
well, basically, I lay there afterwards, euphoric. I felt euphoric. I normally feel good, but this was complete euphoria. I closed my eyes and I could see the entire bedroom. Everything from clothes on the floor to sort of like cupboards, drawers, everything. Then I opened my eyes, I could see the room. I closed my eyes again, I could see the room. And then, with my eyes closed, the room unzipped and it just parted like that, like you would say, like unzip or peel a banana. And through came a head. All I could see was a head, and it was shaped like a plectrum or a pick, if you know, for guitars. And it was dark green, and it had big black wraparound eyes. It had little nostrils. It had a very tiny mouth, maybe 1 or 2 centimeters. It looked like it just didn't serve any purpose whatsoever. And then it projected into my mind a human smile. That's all I could see was the teeth and the lips, and like a human smile. So it was like it was saying, thank you. And so I was just stunned, and I was like, I tried to then communicate, and I was like, I'm Ambassador Earth for, I'm Ambassador Aid for planet Earth kind of thing, and trying to project that that message out.
I mean, have you heard of the Green Man? Did it have a look like that? So-called Green Man?
I've not heard of the Green
Okay,
Man.
fine. Yeah.
So no, it was green, dark green skinned. All I saw was the head. It had big wraparound eyes, but the head was big. It was big. So
I mean, did the eyes go up like an insect?
They went
Horizontal?
horizontal round. So my guess is that was a mantid, but it's just a guess. Yeah, but we had this shared consciousness that was just bizarre, and then I decided to go on a site at the time called Above Top Secret, and I put it out there, my whole experience, and I said, if anybody's got any suggestions or this sort of stuff, and people were really warning me off against it, saying, blah, 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 it could then, do stuff to your family, etc., etc. I got scared, and they suggested that I put out the intention that under no circumstances was there to be any further contact without my consent.
Yeah, that's actually very important, not to give your permissions away.
Yeah. Well, of course, I know that now, and as I say, if I'd have known the parameters to being observed was just a free for all, jump in.
Well, that's the whole point of doing interviews like this, is to let other people know.
Yeah.
What's
exactly
the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do.
Yeah. Now, since then, I lost all contact. And although it was odd experience, it wasn't a negative one. I knew what a negative one felt like with the Reptilian. So you can't help but feel a little bit gutted, right? Because these experiences are few and far between. And you're starting to make grounds and make contact, and then it was shut off. So I feel a bit gutted about that, but that was that. So.
But you didn't feel afraid.
No, I didn't feel afraid. It was just obviously I got surprised as it was 4 o'clock in the morning when I was walking down the stairs. I got that. I didn't feel any fear at any point. I didn't feel my family was in danger at any point. So it was yeah, it was an odd experience that I am grateful for, but contract wise, I would have said absolutely not. You can watch, but that's as far as it goes, you know. So beyond that, I then had this was a separate evening, separate altogether, separate experience. I was woken up at 4:44 in the morning. And I know it was 4:44 because I rolled over, I had a look at the digital clock, and that was the time. And I had something telepathically speaking to me, and it was saying that it wanted to tell me the true nature of reality. And it was saying, you know, that is very, very important. And so it started chatting away, and it was saying that we exist in multiple places all at the same time, all simultaneously, past, present, future. And I was to perceive each one of those realities as a string to a guitar. Now, each string has its own unique sound, but together they make a harmonious chord. I was saying, so if you live your life negatively, it detunes the string and then affects the overall sound of the chord. So what it was trying to say to me there was our actions here are actually affecting other realities. I thought it was a very, very clever way of explaining.
Actually, I think that's actually an excellent way of describing it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I got to shake my head at some of these experiences, Miles. Honestly.
Well, we've been running for a bit over an hour. How further do you want to go with this? Because we could do this sort of as a part one.
Well, you know, that's fine. I'll finish this one. I've got loads of these experiences and people.
Well, I think it would be good. It would be good if you were able to somehow do some drawings of things, but only if that works by you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Well, I have got a photo of an entity. Again, Harry,
the old photo of an entity thing, you know. Doesn't everyone have that? Does a wife appear in this one? I'm being light-hearted. It's just I would prefer to sort of finish roundabout in the next minute or two or so.
Okay.
Because
sure.
it gets things started, and then
next time I will send you that image of the entity I've got. We'll go into more of the different.
Then because the thing is, I've been editing a lot to get the conference. That's my priority, to get that up, because since doing the conference on Saturday has been a lot of harassment activity, so I'm anxious to get that put down.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Whenever you're ready and you want to.
So if you and then we could pace it and get more integrated detail in a sort of a part two.
Okay, yeah, that's absolutely fine.
I mean, maybe we could do that tomorrow, but well, rather than talk about that, so rounding off this sort of introduction, and what sort of time in your life is this that you're talking about with that?
So basically, Harry would be 2, so that's 9 years ago. So I'm 47. Do the maths. I'm 38. Around that mark of that experience with the entity, and so various different things have gone on. It's I struggle because there's so many different stuff to try and get it straight in my own head.
It's good to get things started, and then in part two, it would help you delve into things deeper, and if there's any sort of diagrams or anything. If you don't have any, it doesn't matter.
No, sure, I can sort something for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll call this sort of a part one. I mean, we've. It's interesting the way that the recorder dropped out. That's now happened twice. It happened with Gary Heseltine yesterday or the day before. Because
Right.
I need to get that edited as well. There's some stuff we've had. Anyway, we just finished the Base of 2023 conference, and we got to get that up. So, anyways, it's good to talk,
Yeah. Yeah. Good to talk to you.
then just the old sort of. I like the bit when you sort of the greys are sitting there, yeah, but no problems. But when the wife turns up, bloody hell, there's no way I'd labour a joke. Okay, well that's good for
Right.
now. So we'll join you. We'll call this maybe Bases 134 or something.
Okay.
Or I'm not sure. Sometimes I think it's better to join them with the experiencer things. But well, I mean, you would call yourself an experiencer or a contactee or what?
Yeah. 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 Experience contactee, interdimensional astral traveler, whatever.
Oh, but we'll go with that one. We'll have to you put that interdimensional astral traveler. No, that's important because this is happening with others in the same way that you're referring to the way this is, and I would like to sort of tie that in. But for now, we'll say until next time.
All right then. Okay. Take care.
Okay, and okay, we'll come out of record on that.